What is up? Good morning, everybody. Check mic, check one, check two. Welcome to another live stream at Sales Remastered. I had to put this information together. I had to put this content out there because, as the headline says, will the market crash like 2008? For those of you who don't know, I've been in the mortgage industry since about 2002 when I originally started as a telemarketer before I became a loan officer. And I thought about this today in my morning routine of how influential, the voices around us or people within our industry can be, or at least those that we tend to look up to. And so tell me if this is true, right? If you could relate. And if you can, definitely hit that like button. Be sure to comment your favorite takeaway in this live stream and share it with someone that needs to see it. But tell me if this is true. In your sales floor right now, or on your floor, maybe even on your team, or there's somebody who who's in the industry, they may have brought up the saying of the market's going to crash again, right? Because it's logically it's a cycle, and so every 7 to 8 years, typically the real estate market will crash, or at least that's what the past has kind of laid out. And so us as humans, we tend to kind of look at the trends and we expect the same things to happen. And I've actually lived through it. I've gone through it. And I could tell you that basically coming up within that 2002 through 2008 era, there are a lot of differences that at least in my opinion, I believe is not going to crash again like 2008. And I'm gonna share with you why. So first off, back in 2002 to 2008, the industry in itself was kind of like the wild, wild west. And so there were different programs, you actually start seeing it come back, but at a different scale, where we were able to do stated income or no assets, no income verification. And so as long as you had a heartbeat, man, we could lend to you. We weren't necessarily really worried about credit, because the market was booming at the time and property values were skyrocketing. This was back in the day when we were able to actually talk to the appraiser. And, of course, there are appraisers that would take in spiffs to add a little bit more on the value. But now fast forward to today, everything's a little bit more regulated. Income in itself has to be verified. Appraisals or appraisers aren't even allowed to talk to sales. You need to go through an appraisal management company. And back then, internet was a thing, but it wasn't necessarily accessible. And so, yeah, we had Blackberries, we had quote unquote smartphones, but it was nothing like it is today. As a matter of fact, a lot of the distribution channels that we're very familiar with and we're used to using today, we call these social media apps, they weren't even a thing back then, right? And so there was limited forms of communication. This was back in the day when, we used to use one monitor. Now you probably got like 2 or 3 at your desk. It's because we have this advancement of technology that enables us to do so many things at once. And it's going to be really up to us on how efficient we are and how legit we conduct our business. And so I had this one comment from a follower that follows me on the YouTube channel. And they hit me up on a direct message because they also follow me on Instagram. And they said, hey, Daniel, do you think that the market is going to crash again like 2008? And what was funny is that same exact week, I actually had a couple inquiries saying that there are a lot of veterans who are saying, that the market's going to crash. They're starting to get out of the industry. They're starting to look for plan Bs. And what I found is that, typically those who have that mindset of scarcity or fear that the history is going to repeat itself is because those individuals have the mindset of living in the past. And I think that we have to be a little bit different. We have to adapt to current time, where if we consistently live in the past, we're going to expect the same thing to happen over and over again because that's just the way we accept things. Whereas I think today, like right now, today's Tuesday, March 17th, 18th, right? 2019 and 2019. And we're just in a different era. We're in a completely different time. And I need you guys to really understand this is that compared to 2008 right now, like the market is so highly regulated. And, we naturally learn from things and we naturally learn from our mistakes. And what seemed to be so bothersome, because when I got back into the industry after 2008 crash, I had to get out. I lost literally everything I owned. And I'll try to remember to leave a link below to the video that I made about how I climbed out from rock bottom. And I want you guys to understand that if I could do it all over again, would I have changed anything? And I honestly wouldn't. because it was those memories, those bumps, those bruises that actually made me who I am today. But there are a few things that I would change about my mindset. Coming up in 2002 to 2008, it was all about book them, right? Like, you got to book people, let's sell people. And there, up to today, there's this false belief that sales is the ability to make someone buy something that they don't need, or make someone buy something that they, that they're paying more than they have to for it. And that's the idea of a closer or a salesman. Well, the actual true definition of a salesman, or being in sales, is your ability to actually, of course, relay the emotion, but to explain how your product or service is the absolute best solution when compared to everyone else. Right. And so behind the scene, it's actually serving a solution. It's no more about, hey, can I sell this person this widget for $3,000 when they can go and get it for $50? And if you're having issues right now making sales, it's probably because your mindset is that way, is you believe it's about price, you believe it's about rate. But one thing I wouldn't change is the experience that I had in coming up in that era, because within those years, the interest rates were never as low as where they were. And so I had to learn how to sell in a different way. I had to learn how to sell through benefit. And I think that's a lost art today, because there are a lot of individuals, you might be one, who came into this industry when the market was good. And so the market has changed, and you may be asking yourself like, oh man, is this 2008? Is this going to happen again? You have to understand why you think that. And typically it's because the people who are around you are talking that way, and you're influenced by their words and kind of their demeanor. And if you don't get yourself in a position where you're surrounded by winners and people who know how to make the moves, these are experienced individuals, typically those who actually lived through the 2008 crash. If you lived through the 2008 crash, or if you were part of that crash, comment below. Let me know if you can relate, because not too many individuals inside this industry right now, some of y'all were still wearing diapers and shit. No, I'm just kidding. But a lot of you guys were probably still young. And what I know is true, coming from a veteran, coming from someone who actually lived past it, is that you have to go into today with a completely different mindset, as opposed to, be that old school sales closer who's going to make people buy things that they don't need. You actually have to look at serving value, because if you do it correctly, you're going to build a book of business that's going to continuously feed you, meaning that these people are going to come back to you. They're going to refer you. They're going to be your biggest cheerleader. And guess what? They have the tools to do so, because these platforms called Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, these media channels ultimately becomes their megaphone, and you can use it as a megaphone. And this is something that we didn't have. You know how we used to get by in 2007, 2008? We used to get title leads and we would have to cold call. Man, this is before the paperless era. So we had we have folder bins, we had stacks of manila folders. You know what I mean? It's just so old school, and it's not that way today. It's only that way if you believe it is, because whatever you believe is in what you perceive this game to be like is what's going to be your reality. And I have a few insider tips to ensure that and I want you to learn from my mistakes, is that you're going to be able to prosper regardless. If you actually execute these tips, you'll become recession proof. And again, one of the most important tips is you have to look at your service as a service. You are serving people. People have a right to choose you or not choose you. And you have to understand that when you want to be the go-to, or you want to be that person, you have to convey that you are that person. You have to relay the confidence and translate through the words that they understand, that you know exactly what you're doing. You can bring them to exactly where they want to go, because everyone has a goal. Everyone has kind of this path that they're on. And back in 2008, my path was just to make the absolute most money possible. We had these programs that used to pay you what's called rebate points. So there's known as YSP, yield spread premiums. And so if you sold a higher rate, they actually used to pay you more. And me coming from a subprime lender into wholesale, I was fully equipped on how to sell higher rates. So I naturally did this very well. And, I would say that a lot of the programs at the time were very shaky, like the negative amortized loans. You guys remember that? If you do, hit that like button or comment below if you remember those neg-am loans. And these were programs and products that were just okay to give out at the time. Now, today in 2019, no, man, you're not going to see no programs like that. You barely see see any arms. But more importantly, a lot of these programs now are doing their diligence to validate the income and ensure that the borrowers have this ability to repay. So that's going to take care of itself. This is why your prospects now have 101 disclosures to sign. But if you could learn from a mistake that I made going up, was that I was more in tune with my image. Like, I needed to be the baller. I needed to, it was cool to sell people higher interest rates and made more money because that was persuasive or that was conniving, right? And so this was kind of that mentality, because I was still young. Mind you, I was only like 23, 24 years old, but I was banking, right? And I was making a lot of money, and that became my image, that became my identity. And so fast forward to today though, if I could change that part of my mindset, what I would look at is every single day, every opportunity that I come across, every person that I talk to, whether it's a good lead or bad lead, my focus is not on the external features of that particular connection. Meaning you might be looking at different lead sources like, oh, this is an aggregate lead, they're gonna shop me. You're more in tune about yourself and you're thinking about yourself. You're not thinking about that person or the overall big picture. And so you might get another lead where it might be like, oh, this person only wants rate term, or this person only wants this. No, what they want is deeper than the lead source. What they want is deeper than the rate and term. What they want is deeper than the 3.25 30-year fix. You have to open up your eyes and identify a way to creatively extract the reason why. Because when at those times, when the market between 2002 and 2008, again, it was like the wild, wild west, but you didn't have as much, ability to communicate with them. And so it may have been a little bit easier to originate loans because the prospects or the homeowners didn't have the ability to pull out their cell phone, hit a button, and get quotes from 9 different lenders. LendingTree wasn't a thing. YouTube was barely in its infancy. There was no Facebook. There was no ability to do these specific actions. Well, now there is. And you might look at it as kind of a disadvantage where you might be like, oh man, but there's a lot of people that are going to quote this person. They probably got a better price and probably got a better rate than you. And again, that all has to do with your mindset. You're more in tune with you and how you're going to prevail, as opposed to how to actually genuinely help that person, because what you do now and the loans that you close now become your repeat customers. They become your cheerleaders and your referral partners. You see, sometimes we got it mixed up because we're getting influenced by those who are around us. And sometimes those people are your sales managers. They might be your sales trainer. They might be the veteran LO that's been in the industry for 20 years and you listen to because you think he's Yoda. But the problem though is that you're looking at his perception, his beliefs, his experience. You're not looking at it through your experience. And so if you look at this veteran LO, or you listen to your manager who hasn't sold, or a sales trainer who isn't in the trenches like you, they don't understand the current times. And so they're limited with the scope of information that they can give you, but they'll give you their 2 cents. The problem with that 2 cents is though, that's not your money. When you worry about your money, like solely worry about your money, then it's going to come off in your energy. And so in today's time, people are a little bit more intelligent because they have seen all these little bookers, right? They have seen these little closers and kind of these movies like Wolf of Wall Street. And so, yeah, they're on guard, but how do you be a little bit more covert? How you be more covert is you are aware of it. You're aware of how you act, how you react, how you implement and how you execute. And so if you want to be able to refine your skills to ensure that you become recession proof, you need to stick by the channel. You need to stay at Sales Remastered. You need to add it to your feed. Just go to your search bar of your favorite social media application and just search Sales Remastered. And if I pop up, add me to your stream, because I'm dropping gold nuggets here and there to keep your mindset right, keep your paper right, and keep your habits correct and in line with basically that direct road to the top. You see, one thing that I learned in coming up from 2002 to 2008 is that there are times that you need to listen to the veterans, right? So when I was coming up, I was so young, I used to get veteran LOs that told me, get while the getting is good. What you should do is buy into gold. Gold was a fucking fraction of what it costs today. You need to invest your money, you need to put it away. But I was so hard-headed because I just made someone's annual salary last month, and I thought that it wouldn't stop, right? And so I didn't have any appreciation of the opportunity. I didn't really have any gratitude of that time that I was really in. Whereas if I would have stacked and I would have purchased gold, I would have invested, I would have put money towards my future as opposed to put money towards buying out the bar or buying that new Gucci shirt or owning, the latest car or the glitzy house. Like, I was very materialistic, and to some degree I still am, right? But at the end of the day, I'm a little bit more cautious, and I'm putting moves to ensure that my next 5 to 10 years are set. And if I could do it all over again at that young age, I would have taken those actions, right? But I also would have went about it in a different way. And if I would have, then the clients that I worked with 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago would still be my clients today. You see, sometimes we have this fear that holds us down. It's kind of like these anchors. And when we typically live in the past, so we're not giving any credit to the potential of our future and what we have the capability of doing today, we sometimes look outward to find maybe motivation, or we look outward to find kind of that guidance. And depending on who you are allowing to feed information into your brain, that then becomes your perception of the game. And so when you hear these older people that you respect talk about, oh, the market's going to crash again, it's going to be like 2008, man, you know how long they've been talking about that? Since 2012, they were talking about, oh, the market's going to crash again. Bruh, that's 7 years ago. I've been eating well for the last 7 years. But the thing is, though, is that when you feed yourself, you need to feed your future. You have to expand your mind. Look beyond the next month, the next quarter, the next year. Where are you going to be in 3, 4, 5 years from now? If you want to be recession proof, you need to focus on how you're positioning yourself today. So if you're doing just enough to, stay under the radar, if you're doing just enough to hit your quota, if you're doing just enough to pay your bills, ask yourself, man, why are you in this industry? Why are you doing what you're doing? I'm sure you could probably do that working HR for Kohl's, right? Or working some other side job that you're not going to get as much rejection, because mentally you need to be strong. You need to be optimistic. You need to be persistent. And more importantly, you need to watch out who you're letting feed your mind with the information and content, and understand their motive, understand that they're different than you, understand that they may have came up in a time in an era where we didn't have as all the, the tools that we have today. And so I guess coming back to my opinion, as far as will the 2008 crash happen again? In my opinion, I do not think so. And why, in my opinion, why I believe that that will not happen is because the 2008 crash happened because markets stopped lending. The banks right now are becoming a little bit more, versatile, aren't they? Now you're starting to see programs again come back with like interest-only programs or 12-month bank statement programs. You got these non-QM programs, but there are still a majority of people who are doing conventional loans, right? They're still doing FHA loans. They're still doing the standard, everyday, plain vanilla loans, because the market is still growing. And people might look at, well, the housing prices are now dropping. That don't mean nothing, right? That doesn't mean that now the market's going to crash. It's just, it's the way of the economy balancing itself. And because if it continued to go up, then we'd definitely be going down the wrong path, because there has to be some sort of cap or some sort of ceiling. So my challenge to you today is, instead of worrying if whether or not the time to eat is going to end, worry about what you're doing currently today to ensure that you eat, right? Like, so if you have this fear that the market is going to crash and things aren't going to be as good, okay, then what are you going to do about it? Are you going to maximize opportunities today? Are you going to invest in yourself to ensure that you eat while we can? So if you have this limited and this kind of narrow-minded opinion of the market and think that, oh man, I better start planning to get out of this industry and I'm gonna go sell insurance, or I'm gonna go do this, I'm gonna go do that, you're not giving yourself the chance to actually build your book of business and ensure that you become recession-proof. How you become recession-proof, boo-boo, is you build a strong book of business so that you have clients ongoing. The bottom line is this, is that if you can learn how to sell, you will be all right. Because there's not one industry, there's not one company who cannot use a good salesman or a good sales lady, whoever's watching. And if you have the right mindset and you are determined to build for your future, not necessarily build your pipeline for the month, then you're already steps ahead of the competition. You're already leaps and bounds ahead of the same person that's telling you the market's gonna crash. The market's gonna crash to them, my friend. It's not gonna crash to you. Focus on your paper, focus on what you do every day. day, implement the right habits to make sure that you surpass whatever comes in front of you, because that, my friend, is possible. That's what you have control of, and that is relevant to you, not that man or not that lady who went through the 2008 era and then they lost everything and that's all they want to talk about. Because a lot of people live in the past, and the only way that you're really going to make it through this is if you continuously live with your mindset focused on your future. And you have to look past, again, the month and the year. And I say this with great passion, because there are too many of us who are kind of just living our lives, month by month, right? And we will sometimes justify it with these kind of BS excuses of saying, yeah, but I got to get home, or right, yeah, I'm not going to see my, I want to see my kids. Hey, I respect that. But you have to ask yourself, if you're so concerned about, getting home so you can eat dinner with your kids, that's great and all. But at the end of the day, you got to own up to yourself and say, are you really at home with your kids, or are they on their iPads and you're on your smartphone? Are you really at home with your kids? Or if so, that's awesome, great to you. But what are you doing in the morning time? What are you doing when you're not with them? What are you doing when they go to bed? Are you doing any actions to implement and build your future so that you could pick up? Because you don't necessarily need to work 12, 14 hours a day. I've got this course online that's teaching LOs how to make a very profitable living only working 8 to 9 hours a day. They don't need to work weekends, but they choose to because they've unlocked the ability to create the future that they want, to create and manifest the income that they desired from day one. But if you're not, ready to invest in the course, or you don't believe in investing in yourself, I get it. There's a lot of people who are kind of scared. And so again, that fear, it acts as their anchor. But I guess my primary message to you is you have to understand where your mind is. And if your mind is giving you justification as to why you're not eating, or why you're not winning, or why you're not at the top of your sales floor, that's your decision. And you have a decision right now to be constantly fearful of the future, or you have a decision to look forward to building your future. And it all starts with today, because 2 years, 3 years from now, we're going to look back to today, and our quality of life that we are experiencing at that time is going to be heavily determined off what we do today. So regardless, whether you like it or not, time's not going to wait for you. So it's going to be a month, it's going to be 6 months, it's going to be a year, it's going to be 3 years from now. And when you look back and you look at your bank account, or you look at your quality, your lifestyle, where you live, it's all going to be based on what you do today. So if you can understand how much your future is influenced by your actions today, you'll have a little bit more gratitude and a little bit more confidence, knowing that you can control where you end up being at that time. So I hope this video was helpful to you. That's my 2 cents on the 2008 market crash, and if whether or not it will happen again. I hope you guys have a powerful Tuesday. Thursday, I'm not going to have a breakfast of champions. I'm actually going to Cancun. I'm going to this thing called President's Council. It's basically an award for all the top producers within my company, the top of the top, the elite of the elite. And I'm fortunate and blessed because my team enabled me to win the top sales manager for 2018. And nonetheless, I won't be able to do a Breakfast of Champions. However, I do have access to some information. It's going to be 90-minute masterclass, and if you've already signed up for my sales script, you already got an email for it. It's going to start at 7 a.m. and it's not going to end until about 8:20, 8:30, but it's going to be jam-packed with information that's truly going to help you. So be sure you keep an eye out for that, and be sure that you have the resources so that you can be there for at least 80 to 90 minutes. Grab a pen and paper, make sure you have less distraction or little distraction. And if you could soak up the 3 secrets that I share with you within that masterclass, it's really going to change the results that you see going into the year. So I wish you guys again a powerful Tuesday, and I'll see you guys on the next live stream. Bye.